Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the chivalrous Knights of Bretonnia, going to be taking on the foul undead forces of the vampire counts, so let's get straight to it. Of course, Prophetess, Lore of Life, going to be leading my force. Been having quite a bit of fun with the Prophetess actually recently. She's just super cheap, so she allows you to go very wide with your army, bring your caster and lord in one, as well as putting her up in the air, as opposed to the Fanchantress, who can only go on the ground. That does mean you can bring some supporting units to protect her up in the air. Like we've got one unit of Royal Pegasus Knights, because in this matchup, Terrorgeist and other spooky, scary flying monsters are a danger, and Royal Pegasus Knights, although they're crap at a lot of things, they actually are pretty decent at air-to-air combat. So they can do okay against aerial monsters, so we've got them to protect the Prophetess. 4 peasant mobs to act as road bumps, or speed bumps rather. We've got 3 Knights of the Realm, including the Knights of the Lion-Hearted, Companions of Cornell, 2 Grail Knights, and the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, as well as 1 unit of Mounted Yeoman Archers. For my opponent, he's got the Strigoi Ghoul King, who you don't see too often. A pretty decent Lord selection, but a little bit expensive for what you get out of him, in my opinion. But nonetheless, anti-large armor piercing, poison damage, and for his spells, he's got Invocation of Heck, Soul Blight, and Command of the Unliving, which summons Crypt Ghouls, or if you overcast, summons Crypt Horrors. He's also got another Terrorgeist, Infantry Corps of Graveguard, Skeleton Warriors, and Skeleton Spears. He's got the Dire Pack, and way in the back here, Vanguard deployed some Dire Wolves, Feasters in the Dusk, and another unit of Dire Wolves. So without further ado, let's get the battle into full gear. You can see I'm going to be just doing a bit of skirmishing, obviously, with my Mounted Yeoman Archers. There's not really that many low armor, high value targets for me to shoot at, like there is in a typical vampire army. So we're going to go back and actually probably start shooting at these Dire Pack. They're most likely the most cost-effective target for me to be shooting at. They have no missile block chance, relatively low armor, in fact 0 armor. Wow, I didn't realize they were had no mitigation whatsoever, so they will take the full brunt of any missiles that actually hit them. So we'll watch as some of these arrows fly in here. You can see Strigoi Ghoul King and his Terrorgeist maneuvering up over on the side there. We actually are bringing my knights forward. You can see the Grail Knights going to come in for a straight-up phase charge right into these Skeleton Warriors, and it's going to be a bad day for these Skelly boys here. Probably should have had them in Lance formation, but I figured I wanted a quick hit-and-run charge. And, you know, I tend to find that your units maneuver a little bit better when they're not in Lance formation. But nonetheless, we've gone ahead and pulled back. Now we're going to get a general engagement underway here. You can see the bats come down, try and tie down these Mounted Yeoman Archers. They're not really doing that great of a job. Unfortunately, they got caught up on the Companions of Cornell there, but Alpha Strike incoming right in the center. The Sternsmen here are going to take a nasty charge from the Companions, or sorry, from the Defenders of the Knights Lion-Hearted, that's the one, and just get completely flattened here. We're then going to take the group of Knights of the Realm and then start to charge around in other places. Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis taking out some Skeleton Warriors there. Grail Knights pushing up and around the flank. Meanwhile, the Pegasus Knights and the Prophetess running away very chivalrously from the Strigoi Ghoul King and more. I figured if we could lead them on a wild goose chase while my army on the ground cleans things up, that would be very beneficial. Grail Knights easily mopping up Skeleton Spears here. Peasant mobs doing their job, acting as a little bit of a roadblock here while we run around, pulls off some different alpha strikes. You can see Skeleton Swordsman and Graveguard already crumbled out in this pocket. Those summoned Crypt Ghouls just got hammered by a massive charge. And in general, the vampire forces on the ground are suffering pretty badly. We've got a little bit of an aerial engagement going down here. This isn't necessarily going to be great trying to fight the 2 monsters here. You can see we are doing a little bit of damage, though. Not too bad, actually, against that one Terrorgeist, but we do decide to pull away there, just because I don't want to necessarily stand and take that fight. If my opponent decides to follow, that's fine with me. Again, we're trying to clean up his ground forces as quickly as possible, and you can see they have taken a severe amount of damage, and Feasters in the Dusk here going to reveal themselves, unfortunately taking some fire from those Mounted Yeoman Archers, and then the Knights of the Realm kind of goon squad here just going to come through and bring the hammer down. Feasters of the Dusk, of course, another very low armor, light unit, just going to get hammered on the charge there. They're already down more than half their HP and going to be gone in relatively short order. So Bretonnian Cav definitely showing its shock power here in these, just cleaning up these light vampire units left and right. Terrorgeist and Strigoi Ghoul King come down to try and deal with the Companions of Quenelle here, so we're going to start to bring in more knights just from all across the map here to collapse on the center pocket here. You can see the Royal Pegasus Knights going to be charging down, getting into the rear of these two Terrorgeists here, and they'll do a little bit of damage. They're actually going to be better at that fight up in the air, but because there's two Terrorgeists, I figured it was a little bit dangerous, but they are doing some damage here. And then as the Knights of the Realm, the Grail Knights, and other units start to collapse in here, these heroic monsters of the Vampire Counts definitely going to be suffering pretty badly. Fortunately, the Companions of Quenelle do get terrified away here. You know, as to be expected. Actually, they're immune to psychology baselines. They must have just got routed off by leadership. But yeah, the vampire forces are suffering pretty badly here. There's pretty much just the Terrorgeist. A couple units of Graveguard. The Sternsmen have managed to regenerate quite a bit of their HP, but just the overwhelming amounts of Bretonnian cavalry here mean they're going to have a hard time even standing up to do attacks. So yeah, definitely a rough situation. Massive Earthblood going down, healing up all the knights in this pocket. You can see Strigoi and his Terrorgeist here. Really not in a comfortable situation. Various vampire infantry crumbling away. There's only a handful of like Sternsmen and spears left. It's really not going to be enough to help drag things down here. The balance power shifting more and more decisively as more of these units start to crumble away there. So mounted Yeoman archers have used up the last of their ammo. Prophetess is not in danger whatsoever. Maybe if the Strigoi or this Terrorgeist can get back up in the air, it might be a bit risky, but at the same time, I can always just charge back down on top of like these Sternsmen here, for example, and that is what is going to happen, I believe. A nice breath attack there, catching a few knights, not doing anything crazy, but the Royal Pegasus Knights actually hanging in until the late game despite their pitiful melee defense, being able to do a decent amount of damage. Not sure exactly where their unit card got off to there, but anyway, you can see the Prophetess does get targeted by the Strigoi Ghoul King, so he decided to just dive on the ground. Strigoi Ghoul King dives on someone else, and he literally just dived into the middle of all of my knights, so we're going to collapse with everything here. This Terrorgeist is not long for the world. Strigoi Ghoul King is going to have a hard time holding together his binding once that Terrorgeist goes down. So, yeah, I mean, the terror is real. Going to terrify away some of the Knights of the Realm here, but at the end of the day, it's just not going to be enough. More Pegasus Knights charging down, getting into the side of Strigoi Ghoul King there. Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis cleaning up from the rear, and yeah, another Earthblood going down, just healing up the units in this pocket. And that is going to trigger disintegration from Strigoi and the Terrorgeist there, so victory for Bretonnia. Well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. I've been using this kind of mass cav force for Bretonnia quite a bit lately, and I found it's pretty effective. It just stresses out your opponent so much that they typically don't, at least in terms of their micro and the tools they have in their army, that they don't have enough to really respond to all of your threats. So you can really just collapse their infantry lines wherever they're weak and then bypass their strong points until the late game when you can just clean them up with a massive alpha strike. But you can see Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, 142 for such a cheap cav is really good. 99, 72, and 138 for the Knights of the Realm. 199 and 153 with some XP chevrons to go around for the Grail Knights. 129 for Companions of Quenelle. Royal Pegasus Knights even managed to get a couple of XP chevrons in the damage they did to the Terrorgeist there. And the Mounted Yeoman archers also doing some okay work. For my opponent, the Feasters in the Dusk ended up being a pretty rough pick. They really didn't get anything done, because, not only because of their deployment, but they're also just kind of a rough unit in general against Bretonnia because they take so much shock damage due to their low armor and low melee defense. They're a liability at best, I would say. In terms of the rest of my opponent's army composition, I mean, the light infantry of the vampire counts, I mean, you need bodies to throw at your opponent, certainly, but I think that maybe going a little bit cheaper on his heroic core, you still bring the one Terrorgeist just to keep your opponent honest up in the air, but maybe you bring a cheaper Lord, try and cheap out some other things as well, and maybe grab a Blood Knight or two. Blood Knights will have a pretty hard time because they're going to be up against a lot greater numbers of cav. You just can't bring that many Blood Knights with the vampire counts for it to be really super effective. So I would need to do some messing around with the vampires, see if I could come up with a really effective counter build for this. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What kind of build would you take as the vampires to help counter this massive Bretonnian cav force? And just in general, I've found that a lot of matchups recently with Bretonnia bringing, 6 or more units of cav is definitely the way to go, just because obviously their cav is quite cost effective across the board. I found, especially when there's just so many numbers of it, that even if your opponent does have the tools to deal with it, it can be tricky sometimes, certainly. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.